Do you remember in 2017 when David Schwartz put out a tweet that was quite consequential and then he took it down for a particular reason? I'm going to be talking about that in this video, but have you ever considered why the SEC seemed to have singled out Ripple and XRP and went after them in a different way, and they didn't go after other cryptos and projects in the same way? Have you ever wondered why the board of directors of Ripple are also connected to the big banks and the politicians? Have you ever stopped to think about why the executives at Ripple never seem to woo the XRP army or users of XRP in any way? I mean, like, if you think about other crypto projects, the executives or CEOs of companies that are attached to those projects, if they exist, always have some kind of incentives, always try to woo their community, always throw them some kind of bone. Have you ever wondered why the executives at Ripple have never actually done this, like ever? And they don't ever seem to be interested in what retail is doing or try to do any programs to try to boost retail in any way. Have you ever wondered why David Schwartz came out and almost discouraged retail from participating in RLUSD? Now, all of the information I'm going to talk about in this video, you probably already know, you've heard it somewhere before, but you might not have put it all together in this particular way. And once you think about it this way, you will realize the role of us retail people in XRP and how Ripple sees us and why we're here and why we're going to make a lot of money and how it really was and wasn't by design. All right, let's start with the tweet. So the tweet that was released years ago, back in 2017, paraphrases like this: the XRP price has to be high because it is targeted to the institutions. Banks need to buy XRP in order to use it. And in order for it to be scalable and not move the market, the price has to be extremely high. So when we say high, we're not talking about $10, $20, or $100. He was talking in the millions of dollars, right? That's the kind of level he was thinking of. And then that tweet was imminently removed. Now, up until now, we have no idea why he removed the tweet, but the tweet was removed. A lot of people have speculated over it for years, and a lot of people have also run with it. And this is where the idea of the price of XRP has to be high for it to function comes from. And, the consequences of what he said in that tweet, which have now been removed. Now, there have been sort of other iterations of that mentioned here and there, but nothing quite that clear as what he did in 2017. Now, moving on to why Ripple executives are all like people, powers, and high places. That is because by design, Ripple was set up to use the XRP ledger. By the way, the XRP ledger predates Ripple, the company. XRP token is older than Ripple. I know a lot of people think that Ripple, the company, invented XRP. Quite the opposite. The XRP ledger, decentralized ledger, was the first thing. And then the Ripple company was formed afterwards. Now, by design, the company Ripple was designed to replace the existing financial infrastructure. So they were designed to usher in the new system from the old system. So things like Swift, credit cards, banking, the existing payment systems were all supposed to migrate across this new blockchain-based system ushered in by Ripple. There's a huge incentive and a massive plan on such a large scale. A plan that cannot be executed without the say-so and the collaboration of very powerful people in places of authority, in positions of decision-making across the world, which is why Ripple's board of directors is chock-a-block with people of that caliber. People who can pick up the phone and call up Jerome Powell, people who can pick up the phone and get an appointment in the White House on the same day. That's the level of the people in the board. It's not a joke. It's not for kids. It is a plan that has been set out to take over a certain segment of the establishment. Now, the SEC went after Ripple and went after XRP in a different way because of the threat the Ripple plan posed to a segment of the establishment, the banks, right? And obviously, way back then, the banks, i.e., the BlackRocks of the world, the Fidelities of the world, the Citibanks, the JP Morgan Chases of the world, were not on board with crypto, okay? Because they didn't control it. Now, with Ripple trying to move all of the infrastructure that they're used to and their infrastructure via which they make all the money that they make, and changing that and the reins of power to move to something like Ripple and a decentralized environment like the XRP ledger, that posed a problem, either because they didn't understand it or they didn't like what it was doing to the banks. Fast forward 2024, the banks are catching up. They're setting up ETFs. They're building on their own infrastructure. They're finding ways to utilize and themselves leverage this new technology to their benefit. They also understand that unless you change, you will break. And unless you embrace what's coming, then you will become a thing of the past. So a lot of these organizations are themselves now moving across. You hear people buying Bitcoin, you hear companies using Bitcoin to hedge inflation, store of value. They're integrating their systems with Chainlink to try and collaborate with existing projects. You have HBAR, Chainlink, Stellar, Quant, all of these companies now collaborating with these establishment banks to try and bring them into the 21st century. This has been done kicking and screaming. This happens every time we have a paradigm shift. It happened when the printing press was invented. It happened when photography was invented. It happened when digital photography was invented. And now it's happening with blockchain and AI. It's inevitable. People have to move on to the next system. Otherwise, they will become irrelevant. So as these banks and big organizations and political institutions start to themselves get savvy and come over, they're being less and less reluctant. And now with the new administration in the United States, the power shift is happening towards crypto and blockchain vis-a-vis the powers that be. Now, make no mistake, we're not going to defeat the powers that be, right? Because the likes of BlackRock have seen the writing on the wall and they're buying up all of the existing Bitcoin. And the United States now, the government is going to also be buying up all the Bitcoin. So we're going to come to a time in future where all of it is going to be controlled by them anyway. We are here by accident, which I'm going to address in a minute. Now, RLUSD is supposed to be a response to some of the objections raised by the establishment banks about the volatility of an asset class like XRP. So the whole sort of Bitcoin, altcoin, blockchain environment is a little bit too volatile for the existing powers that be, existing banking system, the existing financial structure. The volatility, the billionaires, the trillionaires, in terms of organizations and countries, are not comfortable with 20% swings intraday, okay? And they need something more stable, okay, to integrate their systems into the XRP ledger, right? And Ripple being a company that they can deal with, because these guys don't want to deal with us. They don't want to deal with a decentralized environment. This is not their cup of tea. They need somebody they can pick up the phone or, meet up on the golf course or fly out to Dubai and sit in a room together or whatever and talk about their plans and execute as expected, right? Someone who they could sue or, send to prison if needs be, right? Someone who can drink the Kool-Aid with them and they can have a chat and, execute the plans to control the masses, right? So that's where Ripple comes in, right? And Ripple has given them, the establishment, what they need, RLUSD, which is why, Schwartz will come out and say, guys, don't FOMO into it. Don't buy it. This isn't for you. This is for the establishment. Now, the reason why we're here is because we are collateral, right? We come with the system. We're like background radiation. So you and I, as retail holders of XRP, we're here because technology, Bitcoin, was meant for us. So the whole blockchain technology was meant for us. It was supposed to be a way for us to disconnect ourselves from the existing financial structure. So we come as part of the program, okay? And the only way that XRP and the XRP ledger could flourish is to use us, the existing, users. And as such, they can't stop us from buying these tokens. So now we've bought the tokens, even though they haven't wooed us, they haven't given us any special incentives. For whatever reason, people became diamond-handed, and for decentralization and distribution purposes, we are vital. We're vital for, the distribution of the tokens in a decentralized manner. Mind you, we represent a very tiny fraction of holders of XRP in the grand scheme of things. But we do represent the dissemination of the token across the globe, because at the end of the day, we are going to be, representatives of nodes and where things are, right? And when the system kicks off, we're going to just, our tokens are going to rise in value, and we've accumulated a lot of tokens, but even our tokens, compared to the amount of tokens that exist, a drop in the ocean. And our wealth, which is going to come, we're going to be millionaires and billionaires, compared to the amount of money that's going to be swishing around between countries and banks, it's a microscopic amount. So while individually your life is going to change and my life is going to change, and all the XRP army are going to be happy buying yachts and all these wonderful things, in the grand scheme of things, our wealth is going to represent 0.001% of how much money is going to be sloshing around in the XRP token, in the pockets of Ripple, especially when they do their own IPO and now they're a public traded company like Coinbase, and the trillions of dollars come pouring in. So make no mistake, Ripple, the executives of Ripple, aren't particularly bothered or interested by us, which is why they never listen to anything you say, which is why, you know, they never come out to counter FUD in the same way as, you know, the CEOs of all these other companies do. They let the FUD run, and then last minute they'll just say something different, and they don't seem to correct any issue that's out there, and they don't woo us. They don't provide any airdrops particularly for us or whatever, you know, and we're just collateral. We're just out here by accident. But hey, you're here and you're going to make a lot of money, so rest assured. But none of this stuff, of course, as usual, is financial advice. It's just information that you've heard before, or maybe I've never put together in this particular way. So yes, the value of XRP in terms of dollar price is designed to be high, which is why it's going to be high, because these things are just plain as designed, plain as designed, plain as designed. Do your own research, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.